ముందుగా ముందు చాలా కష్టం కానీ भद्रं पश्येमाक्षपिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवापुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहिताय यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः साक्षो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Hare Rama, Sri Rama. Oh. Okay. No, voice is not here. Volume, please.
Oh,
yeah. Volume and
the
this.
volume's done. Just
Yeah.
we turn that over to. But it's on blue. This thing. So,
Yeah, got late because of a phone call. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shriyama Devaah Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangaiः Sushtabhamsastanobhih Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuh Swasya na Indro Vridhashrabaah Swasya nः Pusha Vishwavedaः Swasya nastarksho Arishtanemiः Swasya no Brihaspatirdadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmanah
Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmanah
Nirvedamaya nastyah kritah kritena
Nirvedamaya nastya krita kritena
Tadvijnanartham sa gurumeva bhigachet
Tadvijnanatam sagurumeva bhigachet
Gurumeva bhigachet
Gurumeva bhigachet
Samitpanishrotriyam brahmanishtham
Samitpanishrotriyam brahmanishtam.
We dive into the Bhashya without much ado. Yesterday we saw many things, and since it was only yesterday, I will not recap. Yeah. Sound is there, no? Sound is not there? No sound from her now. So, so anyway, so Samitpanihi
Samitpanihi
Samitbhara
Samitbhara
Grihita Hastaha
Grihita Hastaha
Shrotriyam
Shrotriyam
Adhyayana
Adhyayana
Shrutartha
Shrutartha
Sampannam
Sampannam
Brahmanishtham.
Brahmanishtam.
Yeah. So, Gurumeva Abhigachet, we were told. Now, Gurumeva Abhigachet means what? You know, only approach the teacher? No. The Api, Eva, Api have many different meanings. Here, Eva is for emphasis that only. Eva here means only, not that you should only approach the teacher. But here the only is for emphasis of how the knowledge takes place. The knowledge is a transmission of the words of the Shruti through a person who can handle the pramana. We have discussed a lot about pramana. Who can wield the pramana and deliver this knowledge by means of removing the ignorance. So the pramana, what it does is removes the ignorance from that self-shining Bhagavan, Brahman, which is there already, which is you. And since this knowledge is eclipsed by ignorance, the ignorance is removed through the handling of the pramana, through a very important, manner, in the same manner in which the Guru was taught. So that this is how the blessing of the lineage carries through until the complete uprooting of the ignorance from the heart takes place. So this is why the only Shabda is used, Eva. Eva means only through this manner the knowledge takes place. If you want karma yoga, go do seva, no problem. And that will give you punya, that will give you antakarana shuddhi, that will give you what? Good sleep at night, because you're tired, and that will give you all kinds of things. What will it not give is the removal of ignorance. For the removal of ignorance, the direct and the only method is to approach a person whose ignorance has been removed for them. That's the only way. And there is no ifs and buts about it. Or perhaps there is another way. The fact that we want another way is itself a problem. Yeah. The fact that we want some other means, that this is not enough, is itself a problem. That's why the Shruti talks about the eva, the word eva. And Adi Shankara, in talking about it, in expounding it, says it is avadharanartham, it's for nishchaya, it's for nishchaya, means to ascertain this connection between knowledge and teaching. So, ignorance and teaching. Ignorance is removed by teaching alone. Knowledge is already you. Ignorance is removed by teaching. Why? Because ignorance cannot be removed by karma. Any kind of karma. Apyam, utpadyam, we saw all that. Reaching out karma. Reaching out, you can go and grab something. That's it. Reach out. Yeah, tangerine, can have orange juice to reach out, because it's away from me. Orange juice and I are not one. And and even if I become one with the orange juice, the union is temporary. Correct? Yeah. So therefore, everything that I want to become one with, which is far away, which is not me really, which is that presence plus name and form. But here I am not touching the presence. I am touching the name and form. That is called orange. You see? The form called orange, the name called orange. I cannot touch the presence. Oh, that's too sad. No, it is already me. It's a self-shining eye that doesn't need to be touched. In fact, it is untouched by everything. That's what it is. And therefore, the whole thing is very beautiful. So therefore, everything that I do, whether it's something to reach out and bring towards me or go somewhere if that is not able to come. Number one. Number two, what other kind of karma? Utpadyam, to create. To create something. Oh, I wrote a poem, I wrote an essay. Before that poem was not there. Now poem is there. Correct? And punya, it's created through karma. And then the third one is vikaryam and samskaryam. Vikaryam, any kind of modification, such as you do something you operate on something and make it into something else. Pluart. Vikaryam, plum and apricot together, they get married and create babies called pluart. This is what it is. This is vikaryam, this is just nature. And GMO modified eggplant, which they started in India, and the villagers who were naughty, this was about a few months ago, villagers who had not even been to school, they were completely, unaware of what GMO means and everything. They took this eggplant and then they had them peddling the eggplant in the village. It looked all shiny and perfect. They said, we don't trust this eggplant. It looks too good to be true. And it's just, is it made of plastic? One of them asked. And then it was very interesting. They did this survey with 50 men and women. And all of them said, we are not going to eat it even if you pay us. And so that's how that was a slow miss. I think it must have gone to Pakistan. I don't know where it went. But they did not accept it. They unanimously, certain vikaryams are not good for health. Yeah. And then samskarya, this is what the range of the karma, what the karma does is only these four things, nothing else. Karma cannot remove ignorance, because ignorance, of what? The infinite. Karma can only produce, modify, clean, and what? Put things together, create. That's all it can do. So can this knowledge be produced? No, it's an already existent fact. Can this knowledge be cleaned? It is Shivam, it doesn't require any cleaning, it's already pure. And can this knowledge be, brought and grafted onto the heart? No, because it's already there. It doesn't need to be reached out to. And can this knowledge be, put together with something else and then concocted? Satyam and Mithya will concoct this. That's what is already the problem. That I am unable to discern this Satyam. That is my problem. So therefore this knowledge is as far away from karma as oil and water. In fact, even further, because oil and water have a temporary marriage in salad dressings. Here, this doesn't have even the slightest bit of connection. Slightest bit of connection is not there between karma and knowledge. They are opposed diametrically to one another. They don't have anything to do with one another. They are so far apart, and any attempt to try to mix them is just a, sacrilege. This is what Adi Shankara says, and this is true also. So then, having said that, now the description of the Guru is taking place. What are the qualifications of the Guru? Yatha Shishya has qualifications. Shamadhama. And Guru also has qualifications. We saw 3 of them. What were they?
Brahmashya, Shrotriya.
According to Adi Shankara. And Daya. Shama, Dama and Daya. He highlights 3. Titiksha Guru already has, because he has to deal with so many students. So Titiksha is already there. Without Shraddha, Guru wouldn't have gained the knowledge. So it's useless to mention Guru should have Shraddha. Correct? And then what else? Mumukshutvam, without Mumukshutvam, Guru wouldn't have gone to his Guru, Har Guru. So that also is a moot point. Viveka Vairagya also is useless to mention. Correct? And then what else? Uparati Guru, has, but the Uparati is mentioned here as Brahmanishtha. We'll see that. And then what else is there? Shamadama. The Titiksha, of course, is understood. Because so many people are approaching him, and the Guru has to do, have that staying power, Titiksha. But here the 3 things are mentioned are what? Shamadama, the non-reactivity, which is Dama, and the, what is that? A resolved mind, a mind that is not constantly second guessing itself, a mind that's not constantly restless, a mind that's not embattled with itself or with other minds, a mind that is resting in itself. This is what is called Shama. And so this Shama, Dama, and then finally Daya. The Daya includes Titiksha. Daya means here a compassion that is beyond the ordinary. We are familiar with ordinary acts of compassion. We are familiar with, reaching out, helping somebody. Somebody lost their job and house, we take them meals. Somebody is in the hospital, we take them food. Somebody is, not well. But even in this compassion, however, unconditional it may be that we encounter in the realm of the daily life, there is some ulterior motive, either to appear altruistic, or to have a what is that? If somebody is sick and I take them soup, the hope is when I am sick, they will do that. Yesterday I gave the example in the Gita class of the Indian men who are being fed by other families. So why? Because when this person, when the other people go out of town, this family will be kind to other families likewise. That hope is there, that expectancy is there. And so therefore, the ordinary daily acts of compassion that we may encounter are, riddled with certain motives which are based in raga and dvesha. Occasionally, very occasionally, we'll come across Gandhiji, we'll come across Martin Luther King, people like that, Mandela, all these people, and who have excelled in this compassion and who show a different variety of compassion where there is sacrifice. Because otherwise it is not compassion. Compassion means there has to be some kind of a sacrifice. That I have to feel the pinch, and I don't, advertise the pinch in the newspaper. See, I forgone, but not forwent. I let go of all so many things in order to do this. I don't advertise it. Neither do I complain about all the, privations that I had to have. It's a quiet affair. That's why I said Daya also includes Titiksha. It's beyond Titiksha. It's when Shama, Dama, Titiksha, etc. fructify, they produce Daya. Or rather, they produce it, meaning it's already there. They give rise to that Daya which was dormant. So this is what Daya is all about. Daya is about sacrifice. You cannot, be compassionate, and if you want to be beyond the ordinary, there is something that you let go of so that the other person can be. You don't think of yourself. That is what the whole thing is. So therefore he highlights this, because in the case of the teacher of Brahma Vidya, there is not much upkeep going on. There is not much time spent in upkeep, and there's more about that when the Bhashya continues. There is not much time being spent in other things, and so the whole mind is available not just for the teaching but for whatever people want. The mind is available for guidance, etc. The mind is not preoccupied with various petty or drastic concerns. How am I going to do this? What am I going to do this? Oh, bank balance is low. How, what to do? Oh, this is not working out. What to do? Those things are not there. So in that mind, where there is not much happening for its own sustenance, that mind, what does that mind do? It's very interesting. It depending on the prarabdha of the body, the mind expresses itself in different ways. Depending on the prarabdha of the upadhi, really, the body-mind complex. So then we have certain teachers who are very active in the world. They have various projects for the benefit of the world. We have like Aim for Seva, so many things Pujya Swamiji has started. We have things like that. And Pujya Swamiji, when he cannot even, walk, he travels from place to place, blessing the people and, helping the people. Because he knows that his presence can help the people, so he travels. And so this is a big thing. And then, there are certain other people, either because of their prarabdha or because of their free will, because you cannot tell a sadhu what to do. That is one of the nicest things of being a sadhu. You can't tell the person what to do because there are no duties. You cannot say you must do this, you have to do this. No. And so therefore, some people prefer, or because of their prarabdha, they just disappear. Gone, and they just disappear, and then sometimes you smoke them out of the cave and drag them out. They just wait till the cave the smoke has cleared, or they find another cave and get into that. This is what it is. But still they are a blessing presence. Even though, they cannot be seen as selfish, or cannot be seen as, they're only interested in their own moksha, or they're just enjoying their moksha and not doing anything for anyone else, because a Mahatma blesses just by their very presence. So the mind, whether it's active in so many projects for, the benefit of the world, or if it is a latent mind just living in its own, presiding over its own glory, it's still a blessing presence. Such people, when they are found, it says in the, not Panchadashi, the other one, what is that? Viveka Chudamani, it says that they are like the Vasantavat Lokam Hitan Charantaha. Such people, they simply make the world happy, like even the spring season. No, it's difficult to imagine that today. But the spring season, when it comes, what does it do? It just flowers and, puts a lot of color in the nature, in the universe. In your everyday life, you see so much color. And the spring season does, ahetuna. Ahetuna means without any prior motive. I'm going to do this, then they're going to water me and fertilize me. No, it just, springs forth, and and it just shares its happiness with others, just as so too the teacher, is just such a spring-like presence, for all the mumukshus. So therefore the centrality of the teacher is put forth in a very direct way in this Upanishad more than others. And then he says, Samit Panihi means, in the next word here, which is being elucidated, is Samit Panihi. Samit Panihi means, Samit Panav Yasya. Very simple, Bahuvrihi means the one who is having Samit. Samit is a twig. For if the Guru is a Grahastha, means if the Guru is got a, family, if the Guru is a family person, then what? Then the Guru has to do Agnihotra every day, correct? Part of the whatever duties are there. Guru also has knowledge completely, but continues to be a Grahastha perhaps. So for such, Gurus, you have to bring what is the sacred twigs, not cut down, gathered as an offering. So Samit Panav Yasya means this, this Brihaspati. Brihaspati means what? The student who thinks of himself as extremely clever can just come empty-handed and suddenly remember, oh, I have to bring, Samit, and just grabs one twig and comes to the Guru. Waves the twig like a magic wand. Here, teach me. And to avoid this, he could have just done the plain Bahuvrihi Adi Shankara and said Samit Panav Yasya. He doesn't do that. And he does it in a very wonderful way to avoid this mistake, or to avoid this problem. He says, Samit Bhara Grihita Hastaha. He could have just said Samit Haste Yasya. No. Samit Bhara. Bhara is a load. Yeah. You have to be having a burden of twigs on your head. Bhara. You have to be, sweating and, getting rid of a few calories. This is what you have to be doing, not just walking in ting with one, one stick. No, a big bundle of sticks. Yeah, at least one yagya should be done. So, this is why it is talked about very, very clearly, because this is Adi Shankara. He is so beautiful, because Samit Pani doesn't mean just, one twig I just catch hold of, outside you can find. You just grab one and then say, hey Guru, teach me, No, you spend some time. You bend, pick it up, then you get backache, and then you carry it over the head, you get a headache, and then, then you approach the Guru. Arms are, aching, and biceps are aching, everything is aching, and then you, without taking any help, put it down. This is how it is. So this is a traditional way of approaching the teacher. So much so that even if the teacher is not a married rishi, even if the teacher is, a sannyasi, the wood comes in handy for nights such as these. The wood comes in handy for any yajna to be done at the ashram for someone else. So the wood is, upalakshana, a metaphor for what? For service. I'm here to do seva. Whatever you want, I'm here. And seva is such that you don't wait to be asked. This is another thing that is being told, because the student doesn't come and say, you want Samit? This is the American way. In America, everything is about want and don't want. And the student has a lot of Shraddha. The American students, it's not that they don't have Shraddha. They just don't have this background. That's the thing. So the American student will come and point to the Guru and say, you want Samit? You know, not that there is no Shraddha, but the thing is, this is a culture of just enshrining constantly the ragadveshas. So the student wannabe, the prospective student, is used to, what is that? Doing abhisheka every day for ragadveshas, correct? Yeah, and keeping them on a pedestal. So the poor student, no, not their fault, they think that they should also enshrine the Guru's ragadveshas, and you know, and so they keep saying, you like this? You want this? You know, and I see this all the time. And I see this with second generation, Indians who have grown up here, the second generation, children who are now adults. And they will say, you want to do that? You want bhiksha? So this is something which is a cultural, barrier in a certain way. It's a cultural barrier because, if you're approaching an American guru, I don't know what it will be like, but I don't know. I can't even imagine. But the thing is, if you're approaching a traditional teacher of Vedanta, and it is the culture of the vidhi. Vidhi means the culture of approaching is different. Because here you are not trying to have a play date with the guru. You want this, you want that, no. Because what are you trying to say? Here as the student, one is trying to say that I am available for anything that is needed. You can just come and say that, correct? The student can just go to the teacher and say, I am available for whatever that is needed. Nothing wrong with that. But here the student is going the extra mile, running a marathon. And what is this here? Already anticipating the needs. There are certain needs. Even for the person who has renounced, we haven't renounced food, correct? Never renounced food. Yeah. So, haven't renounced food, haven't renounced sleep, haven't renounced so many things, having to do with the body, mind, sense, haven't renounced breathing, all these things. You cannot renounce certain things. Natyajyam, 17th chapter of Gita says, 18th chapter. Certain things you cannot leave. And so you cannot leave because there are the exigencies of the body, mind, sense complex demands that you have frequent meals, small or otherwise, and these are all the things that one knows. The food, clothing, shelter, these are the things that are seen. And here the yajna is a constant need, and so those needs I am here to fulfill. Why? For the sake of knowledge. That's what it is. What is the connection between fulfilling the doing seva to the teacher and knowledge? What is the connection?
Close enough for the ears to work.
Two reasons. One is that all the seva, as we talked about yesterday, when you do it in the name of Bhagavan or when you do it for someone else, when it's not benefiting you, there is punya that is gained. Number one. Number two, what is happening? There is all the ragadveshas in the process go away. In fact, there is a third thing also, what you mentioned, that there is some way in which I get the opportunity to be around the teacher, which one doesn't miss, because there are certain things one can learn not just from the direct teaching, but from the ways that the teacher is handling certain things. This is what it is. I cannot underscore the importance of this because that is how I learned. And I was very privileged to be around Swamiji, traveling with him, being with him, for a very long time. And that helped me, as much, and in fact, more than the sitting in the classes itself. Because I watched him in dealing with the world. I watched him in transaction with so many other, cities, countries, people, situations. And it really was a eye-opening thing. It's just amazing. And I want to write a book on this. I think it'll be nice. So that will be wonderful. I want to start writing this down. And because that really was the eye-opener. That is how the ajnanam goes, really. Because that's why the word seva is accompanied by another word, shushrusha. Shushrusha, desiderative construction of shru, to hear, to listen. And in vernacular languages, shushrusha means seva, really. It's identical. But in Sanskrit, shushrusha means shrotum ichha, the desire to hear, the desire to be with the teacher, to gain the knowledge. That is what it is. So for these reasons, what's its name? The seva is advocated. There is one more thing, which is again a paradox. Generally I don't mention it, but this is fun. This is a fun part. Generally I don't mention it because I don't want to scare people away. And so why am I mentioning it here? Because it's too late to scare all of you away. So the thing to see here is that the doing seva for the teacher creates a certain bond, not bondage, mind you, a bond with the teacher. And then what automatically, this is why a lot of people don't want to do seva. I'm telling you this also, or are afraid to do seva, because that bond is created, correct? Then I start liking the teacher, right? Then I start loving the teacher. First I start liking the teacher, then I start loving the teacher. I mean, you start loving anything. This is the heart. You meet one kitten on the road and you start loving it. It's very easy. So this is the heart. So you start liking the teacher, you start loving the teacher, and then what? The unconscious is afraid. Because many times there are certain barriers. Don't go too close. Because what? What if the guru lashes out? Better remain. And in fact, this is ajnanam. And this is there in vernacular languages. There is a very unfortunate proverb in India. Never stand behind the donkey and in front of the guru. Because both of them, the guru's mouth will kick, the donkey's leg will kick. This is very unfortunate. This is a proverb coming from the mind of someone whose unconscious is not being interrogated and resolved. How can the one equipped with Shama, Dama and Daya kick? Why will they kick? No, but gurus can be very harsh and say something. Well, that is a teaching. Are you able to take it as a teaching? No, I'm not. Okay, go sit and, buy a security blankie and stay at home. That's all. That thing that the children drag everywhere. That's what it is. So that is the strength. This is titiksha. Titiksha includes the readiness to have a relationship with the teacher. The problem is one of alienation. And if you cannot trust the teacher, who are you going to trust? Really? So not being afraid to connect with the teacher. But then I will also say this. This is why the people are afraid, because all connections lead to disappointment. The connection with the guru is also going to be doubly disappointing because there was all these expectations there. Yes, if you want to connect in terms of what? In terms of, like a friend, yes, there will be disappointment because the guru will not deliver. Guru is friendly, but not your friend. This is something we have to say. See, and the second reason for the disappointment is because in this bonding, what happens is that there is a one-way transference that takes place. First, there is a positive transference. Oh, this guru is better than my mother, better than my father, better than any authority figure I have known. This is the best, east or west. go Guru, and then what? Go Guru. And then what? Then after a while, the Ragadveshas have a field day. They come and say, see, this is, because everyone wants to be special. And in this connection, each Shishya wants to be the only one connecting to the Guru. How is this possible? But somehow in the mind of the Shishya, the inner child of the Shishya, wants the Guru to be the mother and the father. The outer child, no, the outer adult. The adult wants the teaching. Do you see the reason for the split here? In the same person, one part wants to be mothered or fathered, parented, and the other part wants to be taught. That's why the Guru has to have oodles of compassion. This is what it is. So the transference takes place. But fortunately it is one-sided. The Guru is not participating in what Carl Jung calls counter-transference. Please read Carl Jung's essay on counter-transference. It is fantastic. It is just fantastic. You can get it off the internet. It is just so well written. And in that he says counter-transference happens whenever you start thinking for the other person. You start thinking, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? You start anticipating their words and you start putting words in their mouth. That means the transference is no longer one way. They have a transference on you, meaning they have transference. What does it mean? It means they have projected all their likes and dislikes and their previous expectations connected to authority figures on you. And then if you start taking it as Satyam, this is Mithya within Mithya, this is their own Mithya. If you start taking it as Satyam and start denying those accusations, that means what? You are participating in the counter-transference. In the teaching situation, the reason it works is because the teacher does not participate. Much like a therapist, the teacher does not participate in the counter-transference. Oh, then what happens? The student is of course disappointed because the student is not disappointed. The inner child of the student is disappointed because the inner child wants to drag in the teacher. The inner child is scratching the ground looking for a fight because it wants to rehearse the old distresses. This is what it is. But since the teacher doesn't participate, it just gets disappointed. Yeah. But really speaking, if Vedanta has to come, it cannot come without this transference. Paradox. And when I was learning from Pujya Swamiji, I asked him, I said, is transference necessary to gain the knowledge? I really wanted to hear it from his mouth. And he said, if you are a serious student, yes. There's no other way. And transference is messy. Projections are messy. And sometimes you feel like going away from the teacher because what is all this about? I don't want to see the teacher's face. And who is this I? Not the one who is seeking the knowledge. Who? The inner child. Because there are two people now. And two people want different things. One wants a feeding bottle. And eye contact. And the other one wants the teaching. The adult wants to get rid of the ignorance. If the teacher gives the feeding bottle, then this child will grow big and strong and biff the other one. Correct? Yeah. So the teacher hides the feeding bottle under lock and key. Yes. And the child feels deprived and hungry and upset and wants to shake the teacher. This is what it is. Just because the teacher has locked up the feeding bottles. This is what it is. And so what? That's why we have satsang. So there are other people to have a support group about no feeding bottles. Yeah, everyone can get together, And sometimes the teacher engineers such satsangs, to some get-togethers like this. And so where one can commiserate with one another of how, I am being weaned before I am ready. The weaning is a compassionate act. Yeah. Because you don't want to have a life-size feeding bottle. I had an unfortunate experience, which I feel compelled to share. I was asked to preside over a children's, what is it called? Halloween party. I think it was in Washington DC. Yeah. Was it in Atlanta? No, it was in Washington DC, I think, or some other place, Detroit maybe, I don't know, somewhere. It was a long time ago. I have blocked it out. And it was for children, It was for children. And so the children came dressed. I thought it was a no-brainer. I'm just going to give presents and, give sweets and, look at the costumes and everything. And they were so cute. One had come dressed as a lantern and it was very cute. All of them were so wonderful. And unfortunately, one man thought that it was for adults also. And he came dressed as a baby. So he wore these skin-colored tights. Over that he wore some diaper with this big pin, And then the world's largest feeding bottle. See, when I was thinking of feeding bottle, this and the little bonnet, which babies wear, and topless, and we were with this big feeding bottle. He walked in. I just had to. I can take a lot of things. But this was a little bit even too much for me, And if I had any pride that I'm very modern and very savvy and I go with the times, even this was a bit much for me. It served as a humbling experience. So anyway, so this caricature. And so then, the locking up of the feeding bottles is a part of the teaching process, which we have to understand. So anytime a student is feeling deprived, is feeling undernourished, is feeling angry, is feeling traumatized by the teacher or the teaching situation, please let the adult prevail. My prayer is that may the adult prevail and know that this is just a feeding bottle lock-up situation. Yeah. That's all it is. The teacher takes inventory of how many feeding bottles, how many students, and nicely locks it up. This is what it is. And if really the student is crying, there is no other way, all right, here, take. And after a while, that also goes back. This is what it is. So the teaching is an ingenious thing because what it does is all the projections and transferences that are there in the life are kendrita, are centralized on one being. That's why the teacher has to have daya. That's why Adi Shankara says daya. Are transferred are laser beamed onto one person who does not participate in the transference. Because of that transference being laser beamed onto one person, what happens is that the transference has a place not to just keep being rehearsed, but being reversed. The transference is reversed, is resolved, not just rehearsed. It's not just played out each and every time. Because each transference is just where the pain is played out each and every time with new entities. Here, this is the final resting place, the altar where the transference is ultimately surrendered. No more transference. No more, there's nothing beyond this. The Guru stands as a impregnable wall where the transference doesn't go through. It bounces and just goes down, goes down, goes down. Provided there is Shraddha, provided there is staying power. And for this we need a lot of prayer, we need a lot of puja, we need a lot of, grace. And then only the transference is totally resolved. It doesn't come back. You start seeing the teacher and the teaching in a new light. You go beyond that, And this is what is indicated by the word daya. See, each and every word. You can't even, you can't stop talking about it. This is such a wonderful bhashya. And so, it is incumbent upon the student to create what is that? To create the opportunities for seva without being necessarily told what to do, and to create a opportunities for encountering the teachings repeatedly, and this is what the student has to do. And the teacher's qualifications are mentioned here. So once the person comes with samit, means the person is finally recognizable as one qualified for the knowledge. And what should this person? Equipped with a shraddha filled heart and a mind filled with the service, seva. How, what should the person do? Who should the person approach? It says shrotriyam adhyayana shrutartha sampannam. Shrotriyam. It looks like the Shrotriya has different meanings, two meanings. Adi Shankara is familiar with Panini, that's how we know. Shrotriya just means someone who repeats the Veda. Paninian Sutra 5-84. Shrotriyam Chando Adhite. There is one sutra. Shrotriya he defines. The Chandaha Adhite, who studies the verses of the Veda. That's not the Shrotriya we are talking about. Somebody may know that, like a parrot. Even the parrot in front of Mandana Mishra's house was reciting Om Bhadran Karne Vishnayama Deva when Adi Shankara went. He blessed the parrot. So anybody can parrot out, all these things. Rote learning is not what is talked about. So therefore he says Shrutartha, Shruta, Shrutam Yat, that which is listened to, which has been listened to. Artha Sampannaha, he is endowed with, she is endowed with, equipped with the meaning of everything that has been studied. Sampannaha means endowed with, even now has not forgotten the meaning because of various other preoccupations. Remembers the meaning and has internalized the meaning as the truth of oneself. So this is what Shrotriyam and Brahmanishtam. There is that full stop should not be there. It should be the full Sampannam, full stop should come after Sampannam. I don't know how your text is. My text has full stop after Brahmanishtam.
No. This one doesn't.
No, it just doesn't.
Okay, see, if there is a full stop, cancel it. It should not be there. So anyway, Shrutartha Sampannam, that's where the full stop should be if it is there. So then Shrotriyam Adhyayana not just has studied the Veda, but has understood the meaning that was given and is endowed with the internalized meaning of it. So just like we say, we have three types of students. Who are they?
The one that stays in the ashram.
Oh yeah, Antevasi Shishya. No. Here, three types of adhikaris. Yeah. Manda, Madhyama and Uttama. Just like that, there are three types of gurus. One for each kind, I suppose, I don't know. So, this is just, there are traditionally three types of gurus. I'm just taking a little left turn from the Bhashya. We'll come back. First guru is what? He is Shrotriya and Brahmanishtha. Uttama Guru. Shrotriya means we just learned the meaning. What is the Shrotriya? The one who has studied and, not only studied the Veda, but studied the meaning of the Veda. Brahmanishtha, the one who is what? Who has no other things going, who is totally dedicated to this, who knows the teaching completely. So this is the ideal type of, the guru. So has studied the methodology. Shrotriya means who has studied the methodology. Brahmanishtha means who has internalized the knowledge. And then the second type of guru is just a Shrotriya. Maybe a Grahastha also. Won't put you on the wrong track. Won't put you on the wrong track. Will bless you with the Shastra, but may not have internalized everything themselves. Maybe still struggling with some certain issues in their lives. So that is Shrotriya. And then the third type of guru is Brahmanistha only. Seems to know, is always in a trance, gives darshans, but no shastra, no pramana, no parampara. Even if there was a parampara, another mystic parampara is a mystic. You know, so from Purva Punya knows what it is. They know that all is one. They know that I am limitless. But without the Shastra and without other teachers, what happens? You know, they can be an inspiring and blessing presence, but they cannot be a teacher. Correct? So got the three types of gurus?
Yes.
Shrotriya and Brahmanistha. Only Shrotriya, only Brahmanistha. Guess which is called the Adhama Guru? Adhama means the lowliest form. Only Brahmanistha. Only Brahmanistha. Because you don't get any teachings. Or even if you get, they are not able to communicate. They see but they cannot show. That's what it is. They cannot show others. They cannot make others see what they see. Shrotriya is Madhyama. Madhyama means they can make you see, but maybe they don't see it themselves. Why? How come they can make you see little bit? Because you come with your own karmic blessings and trajectories. The student comes and they are able to make you see, but they don't necessarily see it themselves. They are also still struggling to see it in their lives. And the blessing of their parampara, because they have been well taught, they deploy the methodologies, the karya, karana, prakriya, the various prakriyas, cause and effect prakriya. Effect inheres in the cause is separate from the effect. This they can deploy. Pot clay we've seen, gold bangle, all these things they can deploy, but they are themselves struggling with a lot of issues which they have not resolved, or they have other priorities, in addition to the teaching, which they are not able to commit to only the teaching for whatever reason. And so therefore the Shrotriya is Madhyama. The ideal, of course, is the first one, Shrotriya and Brahmanistha, the one who knows how to teach and one who has herself internalized the teaching. But really speaking, if you cannot get the first kind, go for the second kind. That is what the thing is. Yeah. So that was a little aside. Coming back to the Bhashya. Brahmanishtham hitva sarvakarmani kevale advaye brahmani nishtha yasya soyam brahmanistha. Yeah, so who is this Brahmanistha? Hitva sarva karmani, the one who has left all the things to do, has left behind all activities. What kind of activities? Optional activities. Activities doesn't mean the guru doesn't take a shower. Brahmanistha doesn't take a shower because that's an activity. No. Optional activities has let go of. And then what? Hitva sarva karmani. And then after having let go of optional activities, what has the person done? Kevale advaye brahmani nishtha yasya. Nishtha means commitment. He is committed only to Brahman. So he is teaching, he is studying, he is writing books, he is doing something connected with the teaching all the time. That is the person who is called Brahmanistha. Yasya, for whom? Saha ayam, that person is called Brahmanistha. Japanistha, taponistha, iti yadvat. Yeah, just like we have other words, Japanistha, the one who does only japa all the time, who is committed to japa. Doesn't mean they won't eat, drink and take a walk, but in between, they may do that, but mostly their life is committed to japa. Taponistha, in tapas, they're standing on one leg, and sometimes they have to get off that leg, mosquito bites, they have to take care of that and then apply some insect repellent, citronella, and then stand on the leg. So little bit. So in between they have to do a few things, but really their commitment is to that. Annanishta, a foodie. So, they have these things, they have, some people are only committed to food. They make their whole lives about their food. They're not gluttons, they just like food, that's all. You shouldn't call them glutton. Foodie is the correct word. They derived it from Sanskrit, foodin. So the prathama, that is the pratipadika. Prathama is foodie. Yeah. And wherever they will go to various countries, and people go to other countries to see museums and other tourist attraction. This one goes to other countries to go to a restaurant. Yeah, there are people like that. There is this wonderful restaurant in Paris. Really? Eiffel Tower? That's boring. Let's go to this particular French restaurant where half the things are, unpronounceable on the menu. This is what it is. Then they will write a blog about it. The hope is to get famous and to make other people also spend their, well-earned money and take them also to that restaurant. Make them go to that restaurant. And then if they are even more successful, they will have their own show on TV. When they will go to all these places, the cameras are following, and the poor Eiffel Tower is relegated to the background, and this one small little shack in Paris is highlighted, and then they will go in, and all the inedible things they fry, and they do all kinds of things and eat on TV and make you also want to go there. This is what is this is what is called food nishti. Food nishtha, foodie, and then tapanistha, japonistha, and some people are always into just collect some things and collect stamps. Stamp nishtha, food nishtha, and like this. And some people are into cleaning everything all the time. Cleaning nishtha, commitment is to cleaning, and commitment is to certain things. Family nishtha, and they will say, not anything you ask, they will say family. Family is there, can't do that. Anything you ask them. So the family nishtha. So just like that, Brahma nishtha. Same thing. That intensity of the commitment and the time spent in that activity is what is called nishtha. That is what is the commitment. So one who is spending most, if not all their time in talking, thinking, writing, teaching about Brahman, that is what Brahmanistha. That's why the only Brahmanistha guru is very difficult to teach, because they will not, have that commitment to teach, and not only that, they may not know how to teach. That is what it is. So, therefore, this is Brahmanistha. And then, such a person may you approach the one, and of course the student is told to approach the one who is Shrotriya and Brahmanistha. Brahmanistha, you cannot tell whether the person is Brahmanistha or some other Nishtha. How can you tell? Because you cannot go sit in their mind. Correct? Therefore, better choose a Shrotriya if you want to study. And then what? So I am Brahmanistha, Japanistha, Taponistha, iti yadvat. Nahi karmanah karminah brahmanishtata sambhavati karmatmajnana karmatmajnanayoho virodhitvat. And he straight out tells that it is not possible to have Brahmanistha and some other Nishtha, Karmin means Karmataha. So it is not possible to have Brahmanistha and Karmanistha. Be committed to actions and Brahman at the same time. Why? Because as we saw, Brahma Jnanam and Karma are opposed to one another. Tad viparitatvat, virodhitvat, because they are opposed to one another. Karma is for karma phala, and then karma phala is for what? Is for bhoga, and then you become bhoga nishtha. You don't become Brahmanishta if you are keeping on doing all kinds of karma. If you are a karma yogi, it's a different thing. You are on the way to learning. Yeah. Sahatam gurum vidhivat upasannaha prasadya priched aksharam purusham satyam. Yeah. So Saha, who is Saha? You know, Saha is student or guru?
Guru.
Huh?
No? No. Sahatam Guru.
Student. Yeah, don't get confused. Saha made the student tam gurum, that guru vidhivat, according to how the Shastra has talked about, with a burden of wood and all the namaskar and all these things. And in Gita 4th chapter it says tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pranipata, what is that? Namaskara, prostration, pariprashna, asking the proper questions at the proper time, and then seva. Through seva, all this, we have to do, and then having done this, then prasadya, he says, making the guru happy. Guru is depressed. Guru is sitting like this, and student has to come and juggle some fruits and wearing a clown costume and make the student happy. Nah. Happy means what? Happy means pleased with the desire to learn. Just like Nachiketa made Yama happy. Nachiketa did not make some tricks and whatnot. He just showed his intense desire to learn. That is what makes Guru happy. That's what is the only thing that really makes the Guru happy, because the Guru is not caring to do this, that or the other, and so the person is very, having pleased the Guru means having shown the Guru that I am really dedicated to learn. Please teach me. It will not be a waste of time. Yeah, that is what it is. People say all this so many times, I want to learn, I want to study with you. Okay. And then after that you don't hear from them at all, So therefore, like this, you have to have that commitment and show that you are really willing to learn, and you have the staying power, and convince the Guru that it's not a waste of time to teach you. And then what will happen? Priched aksharam purusham satyam. Yeah, so ask what? What's the time, Guru? No. Yeah, aksharam purusham, that purusha which is indeclinable. Oh, but purusha declines. Purusha. No, not the grammatical purusha, akshara purusha. In fact, that's what the Bhagavad Gita has taken from this 15th chapter. Dvavimau purushau loke ksharascha ksharam evacha ksharascha sarvani bhutani kutastho ksharam uchyate. Yeah. But there, Uttam of there it talks of 3 purushas. Here, Akshara Purusha. Akshara Purusha means not the one that is identified with the body, mind, sense complex. The one that Adi Shankara is going to explain that in the next mantra. The one that is free of the body, mind, sense complex. That one which is Bhagavan. This Akshara, that which does not undergo any change, does not come to an end. Same Akshara, which was talked about earlier. Yattad adreshyam agrahyam. We talked about that. And what is that Akshara? Where did that word come? Who remembers? Which Upanishad are we studying? Mundaka. Where did it come in the Mundaka? First of all, did it come in the Mundaka?
It must have done it so much. Yeah, near the beginning.
Did it come in the Mundaka? First question. Yeah. Yes, no?
It did.
Yes, it did. Where did it come in the Mundaka?
Near the spine.
Parapara Vidya discussion. What is the definition of Paravidya? Paravidya?
Akshara.
Yaya, by which, not Aksharam, by which the Akshara is known. Yaya Aksharam Adhigamyate. Saha Para. A fantastic definition. And so he's bringing it back here. The Upanishad first is bringing it back here. Aksharam Purusham Prichet. You know, or Adi Shankara is bringing it. It's not in the thing. He says you should ask only one thing. Don't ask Guru what is the time. You know, can we go out for coffee? Don't ask these kinds of things. Only say, please teach me this Prichet. Please may the student ask. And then what? Then we'll take a 2-minute break. Then we will see what the teacher should do when approached by such a student. Yeah, if
Tripti says pranam Swami.
Who? Tripti is listening? Good. Good, you are listening. Just a 2-minute break if you want to stand up, stretch, drink water, which I am going to do. How you are feeling today? Okay? Good.
It's just a little tough. This right now.
Okay. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it's all going.
I know it's going, but it's when it goes, it's right in front. So then, yeah, it's all right, Swamiji.
Of course it is.
It's all supposed to go like
Yes,
this.
that's how it is. It's a beautiful mantra.
It's very beautiful.
Says so much.
I'll pick you up at 4 o'clock
4 o'clock?
or 3.
Who all is coming?
Samya cannot come.
Soumya cannot come? Oh. Oh. Too bad.
So energy is uncertain.
She'll come.
Okay.
She'll come.
So 3 or 4?
3?
I 4? Anything?
We'll discuss after class. Okay? Rama?
Maybe perhaps
Hmm?
Sanskrit class tomorrow, complete broadcast. People might be interested in listening to the mantra discussion.
Tomorrow?
Maybe
Sure.
we can announce it now.
Announce it, yeah? Sure.
At the end of class. we can- Just on the maybe just on Adobe.
Whatever you want. I'm for it. Whatever you want. Very interesting. The transference has to take place for the teaching. It cannot be avoided, but at the same time, it has to be resolved through the inner child, therapies that we have discussed. It's very interesting. Very. What a knowledge. Okay. तस्मै स विद्वानुपसन्नाय सम्यक्
Tasmai Savidvanupasannaya.
Shall we try that again?
Yes, please.
Tasmai savidvan
Tasmai Savidvan
upasannaya samyak
Upasannaya Samyak
prashanta chittaya
Prashanta Chittaya
shamanvitaya
Shamanvitaya
Tasmai savidvanupasannaya samyak
Tasmai Savidvanupasannaya Samyak
prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya
Prashanta Chittaya Shamanvitaya
येनाक्षरं पुरुषं वेद सत्यं
येनाक्षरं पुरुषं वेद सत्यं
प्रोवाच तां
प्रोवाच तं
not तं प्रोवाच तां
प्रोवाच तं
तत्त्वतो ब्रह्मविद्यां
तत्त्वतो ब्रह्मविद्याम्
yeah. तस्मै unto such a person. Fourth case of tat. Tasmai saha vidvan, that enlightened being, that person of wisdom. Tasmai, unto that person, may the enlightened being, and unto which person again the qualifications of the student are now given. Upasannaya samyak, the one that has approached him or her with utmost shraddha, with utmost demonstrating to the utmost the willingness to learn. And then the one who has prashanta chittaha. Chittam here means the emotions. The emotions are not, what? Raging forth. Like the bull that has just seen red, So this is not a emotion. It's not that a bunch of emotions are coming to greet the Guru. Because then, that really needs the feeding bottle. That doesn't need the teaching, you see. A teacher will not teach. So, the emotions here are talked about, as the emotions have resolved. Prashanta Chittam. Chittam has become Prashanta. When will the emotions resolve? The emotion will resolve when the adult is taken charge of. When the adult comes out and embraces that inner child, which is a bundle of emotions, and having done this for some time, the emotional person resolves. So, someone who is free of emotional ups and downs, such a person, see, it is very clear who should be taught. And then Shamanvitaya. So the one who is Anvita, endowed with, has become one with Shama, has married Shama. Oh, is that a beautiful lady? No, we are not talking of Shama the woman. We are talking of Shama as a quality to be had. And so this Shama is Shamanvitaya. And then may such a person, approach the teacher. And to such a person who has approached the teacher, may the Vidwan, the Guru here, who has been approached properly by such a person, Yena Aksharam Purusham Veda Satyam. May that person who is the Vidwan, who knows this Satyam, who knows Satyam. Who is this Satyam? Akshara Purusha is the Satya, that indeclinable entity, Bhagavan, which completes everything, which fills up everything, which accommodates everything. That is the truth of everything. That is the Satya. May that one, be taught. Yena, by which. And this Yena comes from Yaya. That Yaya Aksharam Adhigamyate has been converted to Yena here. Please understand, it's a very, very subtle connection. Very subtle Sangati. And, Samanvaya here. Yena means by which. this Purusha is known. There it was Yaya, feminine. Yaya Buddhi Vritya, that was feminine. That Buddhi Vritti was not talked about, but that was what was indicated. Here, by which, here he is not saying to teach the Purusha. Purusha cannot be taught. Purusha is you. Akshara cannot be taught. Akshara is you. Akshara need not be taught. Akshara cannot be taught as an object. So how to teach the Akshara to the subject, as the subject, by the subject? Very interesting. Therefore, the teaching methodology is mentioned here. So do everything by which the Purusha is known. The teacher is, here encouraged. Use the pramana, wield the pramana by which the Purusha is known. Yena. Very beautiful. Same. Yaya aksharam adhigamyate sa para. I don't want you to forget that. That is what is connecting here. Very, very subtle. So, yena aksharam purusham veda satyam, by which this Purusha is known, which is the truth of the universe, which is the truth of the person. And then what? Provacha. Actually, it should be pravadet. Meaning provacha means told a long time ago, but actually here it means may the teacher teach. May the teacher pravadet. We should quietly convert it. It is chandasam. Provacha tam brahma vidyam. So may that brahma vidya be taught. How? Tattvataha. Tattvataha means what? Completely, until it is understood. Totally, fully, completely, without leaving anything behind. This is the only knowledge. In everything, the person leaves something behind. Sometimes on purpose. The musician will not teach certain tricks to the student, especially to the best of students. Why? Doesn't want to be outshined by the student. And the cook will share everything except, on what level the flame should be. On high? Yeah, on high. Keep sauteing on high. And then you have carbon for lunch. That's what you do. Maybe good for health. We don't know. So, this is certain secrets will not be told because they want to have that position here. And here, Brahma Vidya is not like that. Because it is the knowledge of the whole, limitless. It is impartite. You cannot give only part of Brahma Vidya. I'll only give Tvam Pada. That is not Brahma Vidya. I'll only give Tat Pada. I'll say Bhagavan has to be worshipped and done Archana, Om Namaha, Om Namaha, Om Namaha 108 times. That is not Brahma Vidya. That is Puja Vidhi. Yes. Brahma Vidya is this Mahavakya of that equation. Okay, you cannot say I'll give part of the equation. You cannot say I am Ishvara, I'll only teach am. I will not teach I or Ishvara. Can't do that. Since it is impartite, since it is whole, since it is you, and since it is the nature of the person that you are teaching to, it is just one. You cannot say I'm going to give half Brahma Vidya, quarter Brahma Vidya. No. That means your understanding is what is not complete if you are trying to parcel out Brahma Vidya. Yeah, but you say that, but every day you teach a little bit. Actually, that's not true. Each class is whole. Each class is complete. Each class is full. In each class you have this, thing. And really, this is how Pujya Swamiji taught me. This is really what was fascinating to me. When I sat in, the first class that I sat with him, I just had my mouth open. I said, somebody can teach like this. Somebody can, teach in this way. In the second class, same thing. And then I went and talked to him. I said, how can you make each class a total revelation of this, a total revelation of the Vastu? I asked him. Each class is so complete, so full, even though you are in the middle of an Upanishad. How do you do this, Swamiji? And he just laughed. He said, that's a trick. I said, teach me that trick. I think he must have taught me that because, I just love that. I said, this is really what I want to learn? And he just laughed. He just was very happy that I had noticed it, I think. That's what it was. It was so beautiful. It was just so beautiful. And so that's why everybody who has studied with Pujya Swamiji has this trick. This is the trick, is blessed with this trick. It's not a trick, really. We think it's a trick because in the beginning it feels like magic to the listener. So everybody is blessed with this trick because it is coming in the lineage. So this is how it is taught. It is, each thing is whole, and it is wholly given to the person who is whole by the person who is whole. Purnamadaha Purnamidam. Beautiful. And so Tattvataha means along with all the Shesha, there is no Shesha. Karma Yoga is taught, Bhakti is taught, Bhagavan is talked about. Bhagavan is talked in two-step Bhagavan is taught. One step Bhagavan, devotion. Aparam chet dhyatavyam, param chet jnatavyam, all that is taught completely. And then even after that, if it's not understood, mananam is taught. Nididhyasanam is taught. If mananam does not do its job, if shravanam is not enough, then nididhyasanam is taught. How to practice the words of the Shruti repeatedly, everything is taught completely. So may the teacher teach completely only to such a person who comes equipped with all the Shraddha, etc., all the accoutrements. This is what is talked about. We'll see a little bit of Bhashya. Do we end at 9 or 9:30? 9, no? Okay. So, Tasmai Savidvan
Tasmai Savidvan
Guruhu Brahmavid Upasannaya Upagataya Samyak Yatha Shastram Ityetat So, Tasmai Savidvan, unto such a person, may the Vidvan. Who is the Vidvan? Because suddenly we were using the word Guru. Sa Vijnanartham Gurumeva Adhigachet was being used, correct? And suddenly we have the word Vidvan. Adi Shankara doesn't want us to say who Vidvan. Guru who, that is who. And so he defines the word Vidvan as the same Guru. Who is that? Who is Brahmavit, who knows Brahman. And Tasmai, unto that person, may the Guru, who is Brahmavit, who is the Vidvan Guru, may the Guru teach Upasannaya, Upagataya, same thing, the one who has approached, Upa plus Sat, and Prashanta Chittaya. We haven't done that. So, Samyak Yatha Shastram. I skipped one line, I think. Yeah, Samyak Yatha Shastram. So, Upasannaya, Upagataya, the one who has approached, how? Yatha Shastram, Samyak means according to the dictates of the Shastra, the mandates, the injunctions, the prescribed ways to approach a Guru. What is the prescribed way to approach a Guru? Samit, all this. You don't slap the Guru on the back and say, Yo Guru. That is not the way. And so, all this namaskar, everything that we have discussed, devotionally, reverentially, as the Shastra says, iti etat. And then what? Prashanta Chittaya Uparata Darpadi Doshaya. Yeah, Prashanta Chittaya means Uparata. Upa plus Ram means from which everything has departed. Uparata. Uparata Darpa Doshaya. Darpadi Doshaya. Uparata means gone. What has gone? Dosha. Fallacies, faults have gone. The student is faultless when it comes to Darpa. There is no pride. That's why the bending is recommended. Yeah, no pride. Plus there is a trimming of the waistline. You have nothing to lose, So the bending is recommended because when you bend, it's hard to be proud. When one bends, it is hard to be saying, I am the greatest. It's very difficult to say that because the posture itself doesn't allow that. So first through the posture, Kaya, then Vachasa, then finally through the mind. Kaya, Vachasa, then finally Manasa. In the beginning it doesn't come. In the beginning, first we make the posture bend and then you say bendy things, You say, oh, Guru, teach me, I don't know, And then finally it comes in the mind also bends. So kaya, vachasa, manasa, everything is flat, and so unto such a person who is dharpadi dosha, uparata dharpadi doshaya. So the one whose fallacies of pride, egotistic behavior, conduct, and then what else? Reactivity, too much, a bunch of emotions, uncontrolled emotions, unmanaged emotions floating around. In fact, the emotions greet the teacher first, and then behind them the student comes. Yeah, this is what the thing is. The inner children are unleashed first into the satsang hall, and then the student walks in. This is not the way. The student has to come. That's why the chappals are left behind along with the inner children to mind the chappals. And then you come in. This is unto such a person, dharpadi dosha rahitaya. So then he has made it into a bahuvrihi. So because this is a person who is endowed with who is endowed with no pride and no other emotional upheavals. Shamanvitaya, Bahyendra, Uparamena cha, Yuktaya, Sarvataha, Viraktaya, Iti etat. This is so beautiful. He has this tongue-in-cheek way, which is fantastic. So Shamanvitaya, the person endowed with Shama. And who is this person endowed with Shama? That he doesn't explain that. He just glosses over that. Because he says it already knows. Because he's already done that earlier too. But instead he brings in Dama also. Bahyendra Nigraha Damaha. So he says not only Shama, he slowly adds in, along with Shama you have to have Dama, the one who has Dama. Dama means Vak, Tapas. Dama means the management of the organs of action. Yeah. Usually we find that the organs of actions are very difficult to manage. At the wrong time one feels like saying the wrong thing. At the right time one feels like saying the wrong thing. One says it also. And then, at the right, one feels like saying the right thing but at the wrong time. So this way, this impulsiveness is called Dhamma. So Shama, resolved mind, Adi Shankara says, cannot be had without managing the impulsiveness in relation with regard to the organs of action. Shall we just finish this? What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. It's not very hard. That's why I'm saying. It's not very involved.
Mm-hmm.
So, therefore he says, Sarvataha Viraktaya iti etat. Sarvataha Viraktaya means the one who is completely, ready for this knowledge, who stands out in Vairagya from everything else. For whom from everything else the Vairagya stands out. Shama, Dhamma, Vairagya, and no pride, etc. Such a person, is taught. I told you yesterday that there was this whole discussion where some Western academics said that this is a way to keep the student in total servitude to the teacher by writing all these things, and Adi Shankara is fomenting this. So it is not about servitude. Seva is not servitude. And in fact, nothing gives the teacher more happiness than when the student says, I have studied, I have learnt. This is wonderful. Nothing gives the teacher more happiness. In fact, in every Upanishad, the student gets up and goes. Yeah, that is what the whole idea is. This is while the teaching is taking place. It's not about servitude. And then, Yena Vijnanena. Yeah, and immediately, see, that connection is very clear to him. Yaya Vidyaya. Paraya. Aksharam. Adreshyadi Visheshanam. Tadeva Aksharam Purusham. No, Tadeva Aksharam. Purusha Shabda. Purusha Shabda. Vachyam. Purnatvat. Purishayanat. Purishayanat. What are you saying?
Purishana, yeah. Purishana.
Read it carefully.
Okay. Shayan.
Ah. Say it out.
Purishayana.
Very good. Okay. Satyam. Yeah, we'll stop there for now. So, yena vijnanena, he immediately connects, being Adi Shankara, yaya vidyaya aksharam adhigamyate. So, he is not teaching the knowledge. Be very clear here. He is teaching that through which the knowledge, he's making a change in the mental framework. He is giving the Shastra which encourages, inspires the mental framework to undergo a change by which the ignorance is dispelled. And because of this dispelling of ignorance, what happens? The jnanam shines as the student in the student. So this is very beautiful. And so it's not that the knowledge is being drilled into the head. Please see this. Very, very important. And then, so we have, a very beautiful thing. So yaya vidyaya paraya. So this paravidya is going to be taught, by which aksharam. What is this aksharam? What is this indeclinable, unchangeable entity? Adreshyadi visheshanam. Yattadadreshyam agrahyam avarnam ashrotram apanipadam tat bhutayonihi. We had seen that earlier. So he's recalling two verses from before. The first verse that is recalled is, the para discussion. This first word that is recalled is the fourth verse in Mundaka 1, Khanda 1, and then the other one is the sixth verse. Yeah, both of these he is recalling just because here is the culmination of the student going to the teacher for knowledge, and so this knowledge is that which is delivered, without really, giving the knowledge, because that knowledge is of what? Without giving really knowledge of Brahman, it is removal of ignorance. That is where the emphasis is. So then, what is this Tadeva Aksharam? That itself is Aksharam, which is this Aksharam is that Aksharam. He is reminding us. And then he says, what is Purusha? Purusha Shabda Vachyam. What is the meaning of the word Purusha? Do we take it metaphorically or really? He says, no, really, grammatically, Vachyartha, two meanings are there. He reminds us. So which Purusha is indicated here? He says both, because the first one, which is, Aksharam Purusham, which is Purayati Sarvan, which fills up everything, Purnatvat Purushaha, that which is total, complete, Purna, that Purna Purusha. The knowledge of this Purna Purusha releases the Purishayana. Purishayana means the one who sleeps in the city, the sleep of ignorance. City what? Yeah. In this body-mind city, the person is, that's what we are doing in Kathopanishad right now. Very exciting place we are at. So, in the city called the body-mind-sense complex, the person sleeps the sleep of ignorance. So, this person is awoken by being repatriated with the Purnatva of one's own nature to which one is asleep. So he takes both these things and makes it a Mahavakya right here in the Bhashya itself. Very nice. So, Satyam Tadeva Paramartha Swabhavyat Aksharam Cha Aksharanat Akshatatvat Akshayatvat Cha Veda Vijanati. So what does the teacher know? The teacher knows Satyam. What is this Satyam? Vyavaharika Satyam? No. Paramarthika Satyam. Paramarthika Swabhavyat Aksharam. Because it is of the nature of the ultimate, of the nature of the total. It is Aksharam. Means it is undergoing no change at all. It is not undergoing any change. It is imperishable, Aksharam. It is limitless. Aksharam means limitless, that which does not undergo any change, one meaning. Second meaning is that which is not undergoing any end, limitless. And then it is So that imperishable is referred to as Purusha Shabda Vachyam. We have to go back here because we have that Tadeva Aksharam is repeated twice. So that which is referred to by the word Purusha, because it is all pervasive and because it also sleeps in the heart. See, that is how to go back and do this. 2 times you have to do this. And then this Akshara is called Akshara. Now it is said because it does not have 3 reasons he gives very nice. Aksharanad aksharam, akshatatvad aksharam, swabhavyad aksharam. So by itself it is imperishable, and then absence of injury, akshatatvat, aksharanat. Akshara, has many meanings. So aksharanat, akshatatvat, because of decay, there is its sense of injury is not there. It is free from decay. It is free from any kind of modification. Akshara. 3 meanings he gives. Aksharanat, akshatatvat, akshayatvat. Aksharanat, mutation, modification. Akshatatvat is injury, and akshayatvat, decay. All this is understood by the word Akshara according to Yaska's book Nirukta. Very nice. Wonderful. So that Purusha is not perishable, is not subject to mutation, cloning, decay, and what else? Hurt, injury, affliction. Free of that. That is you. That is the person. And this Akshara is what the teacher will teach. Veda. This Akshara is what the teacher Veda knows. And then Vijanati knows. Tam Brahma Vidyam. Tatvatah Yathavat Provacha Prabruyat Ityarthah. So Tam Brahma Vidyam, that Brahma Vidyam, Tatvatah means Yathavat, how it was received, and in totally, completely, Provacha, that Vidya is to be taught. Provacha means Pravadet, Prabruyat, may the person teach. Provacha means already taught. Here it means it should be taken in the context, may the person teach. Iti arthaha, that is how the meaning has to be construed, Adi Shankara tells us. Acharyasya api ayam niyamaha yat nyaya prapta sat shishya nistaranam avidya mahodadhehe यथा शिष्यस्य नियमाः सन्ति तथैव आचार्यस्यापि नियमाः सन्ति. Just as the student has some rules, don't play music in the class, like that. Teacher also is guided by some rules. Just now you said teacher has no rules. Now you are changing the rule that the teacher has no rules. Look at the word api. The api shabda, I think Anandagiri Tika says this, the api shabda says that the rule is optional. It's an as though rule. And what is this rule? Rule means it's an unwritten convention that when the teacher is approached with great sincerity and the student is able to establish that sincerity, why should the teacher not teach? The teacher, there is no should, but it will be nice if the teacher teaches. It's an unwritten convention. So, and so therefore it says that Acharyasya api niyamaha. So there is a kind of a long-standing paramparik convention in the parampara. Parampara means in the lineage, in the teaching tradition, there is a convention that yat, what is it? Nyaya prapta sat shishyaha. Nyaya prapta means according to the Shastra, the one who has demonstrated that I am a true Shishya. Sat here doesn't mean Paramarthika Shastra. Sat means a very good Shishya. The one who has excelled himself, herself. So such a Shishya, what should, Sat Shishyasya Nistaranam. So such a Shishya, Sat Shishya, the one who is like a Sadguru, Sat Shishya. So so that Cha becomes because of Sandhi. Sandhi. Yeah. So Shashchoti. Stuhu. Find it out and let me know. And so Sat Shishya, and then we have the Sadguru, we have, and similarly Sat Shishya, the serious, sincere student, when approaching the teacher, must be also taught. It would be nice if the teacher teaches. This is an unwritten, rule, not a rule, a convention that is there, that is followed by all teachers from the ages ago. And what is that? Sat Shishyasya Nistaranam, the crossing, helping them cross. What? Samsara Mahodadhi. Correct? What kind of Mahodadhi? Avidya Mahodadhi. Yes. So the big ocean. Udadhi means ocean. Udadhi, ocean. So Maha Udadhi, Mahodadhi. Don't think Mahodadhi doesn't mean big yogurt. No. So Maha plus Udadhi. Dadhi means yogurt. So Mahodadhi, don't think it's a big tub of yogurt. No. Mahodadhi means a big ocean. So it is incumbent upon the Guru to take the serious student seriously and cross them over this big ocean of samsara. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Tripti has a question, but I don't. Did she write it there?
She's not here.
Tripti, what is your question? She says a quick question on transference, but then didn't write the question.
Ask her to email.
Tripti, can you email the?
Email it to me.
The microphone's there.
Yeah, email it to me. What does transference mean to gain jnana? No. Not that you have to have it, but generally people have it. It cannot be avoided. Yeah. Transference means that the transference is unavoidable when you have a safe refuge in a guru. Transference will come because you're bringing, the person is bringing all kinds of fears from the past. So in this safe haven of the teaching situation, the Shastra itself is like a mother, and the Shastra itself brings on transference. Transference towards the Guru, this is normal, it happens. But it is incumbent upon the student to take care of the transference and resolve this split, so that one part of the student is not wanting the feeding bottle and is obsessed with getting TLC from the teacher, and the other part is wanting the teaching. So one has to allow that part which needs the teaching to prevail upon the other parts which need comforting and resolving all this. How to resolve all this? You write it out, you go to a therapist if you need. It's very helpful. To start the Shastra and go to the therapist, it is fantastic. Lots of things come up. It is very wonderful. Go to take therapy, read books on how to deal with inner child, do yoga. All these things are very important. Yeah. Joan, it is nice to see you from the last 2 days. Are you coming to Thanksgiving retreat? 2 people from Shivananda Ashram are coming from Ashland. I want you to meet them. They are going to be teaching yoga. Are you there, John? Well, we'll have to email her. I think she has left. Okay. No, she's here. Yeah. Good. Yeah, so Hari Om and Neena are coming from Ashland. I don't know if you know them, but if you are coming to the Thanksgiving retreat, drop us a line, so we will count you for the food, okay? I want you to come and meet them. They are wonderful. I met them when I taught at the Shivananda Ashram last summer. at Grass Valley.
Tripti says she'll email someone.
Yeah, yeah.